Uh, we did vote on one if you want, but so I'm just gonna do this on. Okay. Is anybody not in there? Okay. The American Technical Security Credit and Virtual Rose Time Launch. Which is like half on is the key internal link. We're about 11:14. You're going to be season of the right about the season of the more time to go to the thing and things for the half on that. We really want to get some because we said we recently on the bad and actually so for the nebulous. Always going to be looking hard to modify and use for this representation of objects and half hours. Wise and Richard backgrounds plus the animation and setup of 30 when you develop. We're on night. 17 skills for resulting from half hours down to the river. I remember I was going to be ready to the house line. We'll show the commercial that we do this and over that and over the and use for the three and I find the limited to the vegetable medicine and go with the animation class system is asset contribute to every step of the innovation. Number 53. You must be doing something in the highland with the pretty spread like the whole time driving the issues of the legal nonsense of the applications for you to have right. The usual technology that manufacturing for the promises of IP connections taking off. How to use the IP conditions was the pretty many events like IP rules and the rest of it, which is specifically pass over every system and these questions critical to the end of the airport. They go on to 54. Every system of students be on the kind of division alternative to 237,000 pounds of x-ray security many different of the industry that helps all the device because it's been non-sterility and finding it's not always the application of aerospace to be disruptive in the industry. Scenario one space cooperation, new US South Korean space cooperation creates violent technical mission lab 23. NASA with further nations on American cooperation space new hybrid partnerships to ensure no one for the government to work on this space communication navigation mission over developing those this given little lines as opposed to the US as a key tool of diplomacy. But pretty for innovation is crucial to success. Stand massive depends on the let's say 24. You're still in the national community and that's the fuel for the future. As we said, situation NASA you walking for days and people know how to that's the US top work back. This relies on the community being part of quickly and with design will figure out our expectations of going. I don't have to be alone and also lots of rock and perform at different altitudes. Everything difficult to manufacture, which is not until 3D printed NASA looking into test to do. How to perform the greatest surroundings specific to developing beauty sector series that endure radiation temperatures and microactivity. Cooperation's first peaceful space governance, the mitigation and satellite monitoring percent. 21. So good that's the problem. The circle actors work in satellites monitoring missile launch to the world space government to the part of the US little mission chicken so go. Do consider the memorandum to the slash space policies and the space policy on life mission space program was the space of which was going to space government tell us to be said that you will listen to every first out like I'm going to say after to the move by international we will start and that also go is in a position to contribute to the ice and global government opportunities to corporation parts of the strong position to get north and space there are three impacts. One, effective space governance reverse weaponization of Earth station last 24. Special deployment of missile collision dream that enables the word on the mission on included connect bombardment columns with high end information that I'm listening. This will intercept the case of the right line and peaceful through the light of the providing its spaces are until recently was acknowledged to be impossible to be possible to light putting out these dependent war. It is a long process of exploration space but also new for combination military abuses like hydrogen, which is against kinetic weapons space races and work for wide degrees of state design and capabilities for human as essential to warfighting in Ukraine and separate as they basically as there are many rules to prevent the term of region development back and forth and as like capabilities piece of the arms of the pride, big open the park with the juice, face of your triggers, the self efficient, extinction, mark 23. That's what the military reason to talk to the allies, the rest of our past, the essential nature of the reverberate, the options, the further, the list of strong basket of reaction, permanence, and that's the high velocity of your African community, these fish offices and islands, no heading losses of the woman's access to business and show that workers and husbands dependent on background on communication of misguided and UAVs and then on other responsible for vaccine distribution, this will work protection lie, on the access for writing for global trade and for and then we take response to all time for the value for that much today only solve the whatever they want to production and distributed as a pride is special every survival of the world is a new amount of new the lots of satellite water system lots of work and beyond the simultaneous aspects of metabolic communication diseases and regulation health and most of the significant threats of the people want something to become scarcely need to our most of the people that we need we're having our decision is about the cascade back on the sort of only frequently mitigates space and creates the price instead of necessary for clean backwards hilarious and it's only 24 here's the one of the communities that is 23,000 pieces of in the world because of process one or outing stairs in front of nature that CS and plans to under the piece of what has increasing to be roughly 5% less than the house press out of the and view the hundreds of years red lots of images were moved states of the removal talents and right also high cost solution as if you're probably recovering degree of work in the salvage all real estate specifically conducted really pretty so touch on the means maybe really pretty was for high value parts of the material we got to find the biggest plus of use such as on the new construction can be manufactured or the salvage has been material on or as material what is the what is the like really by successfully complexity this is really complicated as self-assembling robot 3 growth steps off reach like the birds more the Korean peninsula US supply in the right 23 North and South Korean better access to our people is necessary to let me so I watch the system so let's ensure that it's open but it must turn over the line US water turns to all the ice for people and nasty but even the able to multi-phase order for US and all to put together SVD capability to do mutual reaction to escalation of this person based on fear and then we rapidly use the based on the ice star producer first I mean for an escalation 3 pretty is equal to solid manufacturing 24 30 is when group solid manufacturing agency to the whole of the features and information for the wants to not increase that level but increase in the capacity and performance other than the light being able to optimize for thermal management and last stage of solar energy more effectively utilizing much bigger than against promising avenue for meeting demand of aerospace industry no all costs hosts for US Silco relations remain strong despite Trump presidency in 121 the was asking President Pence so most of the different people for elements to watch and traffic exchange collaboration the US you're in US alliance for production government operation these alliance could get to the room for office of the DC and invitation of Trump because scenario 2 and storage is the US aerospace transcription to Japan of liability to the first over China Russia and NOVO actually 824 US probably has advocating for all countries to China Russia NOVO driving the US demand for enhanced US capability research and demand for aircraft to meet the 22 Warsaw and we're finding something $8.3 billion in aerospace accounting for 56.9% of the total access to planet and advanced military components of access to roughly not just in East Asia West 24 Japan is the responsible for China's Western emission and leadership has not inspired nature by the English military decline in the environment and the defense major agreement that is mostly 5 times the victims to take place national security trials and that is a risk to take the alliance to the humanity and find the NATO and flexible instability build up south trust and to China's migration to respect the Taiwan and East the US and Bradley one that is China was facing with escalation with the Washington D. March and Taiwan and people have to know what is our communication around China and Beijing and advantage and kind of force to be more than everything as much as we're possibly but so late by China and theater and ask me to the day most of the time this is what is important because the escalation used for 5 times the best of the US and see what's the drawn to any conflict extinction of lane 623 nuclear wires and all the escalation of the involving kind of nuclear launch nuclear manufacturing was every year every definition is drawn to the miles of fire and the massive laws and the ultimate shops and was the like really coverage of one and one bigger water because person over kind of that what God you can deal with the plague and the plan is that the massive federal government should take this time and passion and by implementing notice to take remedies for computer and the sign of which lastly solvency notice to take clarify patent and individual fostering really indicates nearly 14 What's are using a body that is in high cost and used to online copy progress and action analysis and notice information for DMC and trail or is basically looking at enhancing progress to the OSP liable of OSP software to remove information without this to OSP developed without being brought or made into litigation and avoiding qualified to the same part of the person who will wisely rather than that and our such model will be effectively removed immediately should accept the community runs uses as well and members of society stuff even if the tackles altogether instantly the users are unaware and unsupported information law matters and that are completely taken down also information can be to be actual on this thing that can notify as being with the information in section 5 of the DMC for provide action on the legal system likely is for control the DMCA and to prevent international sentences and oversee compliance to 14 WI Development Congress unless the DMC and the Commission on Housing Reference to the rights taken in law and custom five of the OSP will not be allowed to recommend does not have actual laws over the district of the community recipe or who does have actual laws received and even notice of legal obligation balancing into the open railroad suggest no one sees subject to OSP really potential benefit outfit secondary principle liability first of all no state of prevention is specifically by the DNPA and circumstance 5 relationship and the selling of Mongolia. 14. Such as the universe, something else, something else, something else, something else, litigation, right, is it also the people who is the use of our opposite to the DSL completely. Also, the plan always this is the limited to by the sentence. A massive wave studies requires our independent cost economic condition FBI and encourage secrecy applied to 14. Studies preventing the benefits of myself and the cost of education and then it is broken by profit without having people on wall and should be the right that for office to take the professional scholarly said that that's should try that and accept these as your art delegation which is for knowledge of the way passing on the technology and are you very ask for my are the ready to work.
Something about how Japan and not Japan, US and South Korea, I think it was, have good relationship now. How does that mean? Why does that mean now? Sorry, you say in the one you see that SoCo and the US have good relations now, so does that just not mean what's gonna happen?
We think that cooperation between the US and SoCo would prevent radicalization and facilitate diplomacy, which does things like satellite disruption.
But it says that they have good relations now, so.
Yeah, but absent innovation for continued aerospace manufacturing, relations would go down.
This is just an answer to Trump's US SoCo relations. The actual impacts are about other countries militarizing space, debris causing extinction, as well as North Korea. So no, it does not come to
So just like in your own words, like what does notice entail? Like what does that mean?
Yeah, so basically, people who get CAD files, which are for pre-printed indications, they would get a notice when they receive it saying that this is a patented object. If you were to willfully infringe and put the object and like sell it or reproduce it, you would be liable for infringement and you would like get the repercussions of infringing on somebody's CAD.
Wait, is there just no infringement now?
No, there is infringement now, which is what's current innovation. CAD files are shared very easily amongst like a broad range of like online users.
So basically,
which makes
just
it
like, okay, so there's still infringement or whatever, but you just get notified that what you made is infringing?
What you do is with notice and takedown is that people who get the CAD file are notified that this is a patented object, and if they were to willfully infringe it, knowing that, they would be liable for infringement. You would solve for.
Yeah. Oh, why does the US want to go to space now?
Yeah, with the phrase, it's talking about how.
Or like satellites? Why do we need more satellites now if the US already has them?
Well, yeah, so I mean, uniqueness definitely goes af. We have cards that say the US has a space cooperation with South Korea. That's Roulette 23. I mean, if you like go on Google, you'll see that Elon Musk has put like satellites in space. There's a lot of military contracts for space satellites. So like they want to because satellites are valuable for both military and
But if those contracts are all with SpaceX, why would like we get rid of them?
We're saying that without CAD file liability, that would lead to a decrease in time change, which is necessary for creating innovation, necessary to keep up cooperation with like NOFO, and ensure that we have innovation in space, which is key to solve limited impacts of the Kessler syndrome and debris.
Wait, so people have CAD files now?
There are CAD files now.
Okay, so then why is that not sufficient to solve?
CAD file liability is a problem now because like anybody online could get an online file for a 3D printed object, and they would unknowingly they would infringe on it and be punished for it, which is deterring people from doing innovation because they're
not already like in a file that's copyrighted or patented?
No.
Oh, we'll take a little bit.
So it's fine.
on all benefits. Future tech and virtual activities for quarters from through courts investing in tech groups report a new improved process innovations, e-filings with virtual remote criminal tech investigation. They pass virtual courts here today opportunity reviews this by addressing root cause, reduce participation options, organized evidence modernization training, include solutions for time takes for judging and info, and grant new IP rights to close clients, so virtual lawsuits, IL-16. IP litigation on the rights results of clients using the opportunity gain advantage from the registered IP rights right or competition clients. Recognize that they want to see ROI in litigation clients cause pressure and overload from litigation because over judicial exchange. Wilson 13. Timing is right for expanding cross-border cooperative interaction among judiciary judges, increasing the appreciated activity, including exchange. The path to successful system developed finding more time and research to answer questions from court systems in the US are often overburdened with cases of engagement high but not relevant. So Global War, Clause 21. On ancient authoritarian, the judicial branch is paramount to entrench liberal law, legal diplomacy, shows centralization of foreign purpose, doctrinal tools and policy arguments to sanction rule of law violation, help avoid wars and fundamental conflicts, intervening foreign relations and trade wars. Courts engage in legal diplomacy when surrounded by wars, preserving neutrality. With rising populace, NATO and tension, legal diplomacy ought to be another barrier. Exchange might end up influencing evolution of lawmaking. Next one. Strength protection means helping the rights under driverless acts must make IP easier to require government scope or provide remedies for infringement. Manual 18. I can target a debate a court opinion or statute concerning patent operator trademark. The primary variable is whether action granted or weaken IP protection, strength of risk, weaken or the protection afforded the rights owner. This is to make it easier to acquire IP rights. Broaden the scope of IP protection, make it easier to prove or strengthen the remedies for infringement, all strength and protection violation. They create new they create new protections. Wait. Yeah. Yeah. And then voting issue for limiting round, they expand the topic to a litany of underutilized like first and anti-topical balancing has another process reform that will negative research burden and undermines provisions for all ways. Next one. The United States federal government should abolish patents for replacing current patent incentives with price funding for successful innovation. CP sold replacing patent price so the case better Baker L17. There are alternative ways of financing incentivizing research price funding over body order price for successful innovation. There have been famous historical examples of patents of price. Here it says if the government advised a patent and placed in the public domain so benefits could be realized as fully as possible, would be available low licensing fee. And next one. The United States federal government not to perform a binding catastrophic risk review of current policy and 3D printing and patent, recommending and implementing notice to take down remedies for computer-aided design final infringement. If and only if a failure to adopt a policy is determined to increase catastrophic risk instead directly strengthen IP protection, the CP endorses the plan conditionally on an evaluation of its impact of catastrophic risk, including the process of use and error in current policy and action, sets precedent for mainstream catastrophic risk evaluation and agenda and agency agenda setting. Livermore 22. There's a little role for CBA and agenda setting catastrophic risks are way after, but there is a reason to be concerned with an action. A catastrophic risk has legal, political, and dimensions that make an intention likely, or a review to set agendas can help establish an template for catastrophic risk review process rules adopted through the process, provide a proof concept or a can use for active cost benefit analysis, and of after initial heightened activity incorporated long-term process of identifying catastrophic. There is some substantial backlog once this initial step has taken place. Catastrophic review transition to more regularized process of major intervention and would move issues from periphery toward a central place in the term for U.S. policy and supposed over optimized management of the risk extinction. Livermore 22. All risks can be efficiently managed. Norms are understanding unique norms offer significant advantage to identity risk reduction methods evaluating catastrophic risk use cost benefit like barriers are not methodological and institutional concept would lead to inadequate attention failure act and contribute risk agency and action contribute to climate AI after pandemics bioengineering and difficult cost benefit to call for action risk review identify gaps to inform agenda setting. Next one. The United States federal government should abolish patents for replacing current patent incentives with price funding for successful innovation. There have been famous historical examples of patents of price funding for successful innovation. Here it says if the government advised a patent and Strengthen IPR trenches contemporary economic relations mutually exclusive with anti-capitalist alternative, right 14. The greatest threat of IP is not simply exploiting laborers and underpaying employees. The threat of freedom imposed on all levels of society by modern corporate about bourgeoisie elite. When scientists operating on a protein muscle because there are too many intellectual property rights. Molecule basic freedom of research has been interfered with IPR strongly favored corporate and come to conflict with basic freedom of rights that are part of a common good. Yeah, technological rulemaking, mystifying legal document, conflict by bureaucracy now, an atmosphere rather than sacred, learning and innovation for anyone who wants to participate in reunited intellectual labors with the products of their label of Marx's vision, precisely because software developers seek to avoid forms of instruction, synonymous with capitalist production. Marx did not want to abolish all property, private property, which is used for oppression by the majority of intellectual property, being used by corporate elites to oppress all societies, becoming an obstacle to basic freedom to take or everything market to be opposed to intellectual property. The real question today is not whether how much property should be private, how much should be public domain, communal property, particularly when it comes to the ideas and information essential learning, ambition, and the production of culture. On capitalism, the root cause of militarism, nuclear war, and environmental destruction guarantees extinction of handle under 23. The excellence without own this is not simply because the climate, but the risk of nuclear war capitalism. U.S. capitalism fuels time and no militarism progress for 5% while elevating profit overall. There is committed on federal economic growth, expanding market, research, putting down goods for sale, and concentrated political power among corporate elites. Many U.S. wars have fought to secure oil, protecting the U.S. right to create countries, streaming forever with countries, drawing for those resident parents, college teams, the military is a monster carbon producing, fueling huge submarines, and producing planes and running bases. The fossil fuel industry, insurable from capitalism, use interest, selling oil, or major factor of fueling the U.S. interest, or capitalism companies are crucial structural extinction forces. And the alternative is class-based movement from socialism, only rejecting capitalism ideology allows for sustainable development. Foster 19. So we will learn from fairly Merrick and anti-monopoly and financialization, undermine global society, ecology, fast-paced movement towards socialism, open equality, new development, social type, long-term planning, equality, solidarity, and sustainability. It is not physically impossible, like surplus, currently squander technology, know-how, material means inherent ambition of humanity, officers, and new international, this requires a logic to counter capitalism, new communicate for great action. Go on a case. One no impact of loss of tech leadership, 2021. So the threat consists of Beijing to overturning the liberal order, Beijing a little interest in governance. They want nations to copy the legitimized system to domestic audience and make sure little desire to extend loans and natural attractives to provide the limit the futures underwriting China's are not replicable and not sustainable, giving Asian regulation, corruption, income inequality, and the free info flows drive innovation since the 80s. Not a single nation has adopted this in the highly difficult single global order. It doesn't even exist. The China is not a negative threat of rejecting this way. No, China is running destroyed way of life, and China's IRS formulated in accordance with Marcus principle, not neoclassical IR attempts to China with strategically hostile clause dialectical escalation. Right 22. Post-Cold War and the Western has suffered grand theories of IR actors change, but the political drama goes on realism and liberalism to explain predict behavior of Western analysts sought to decode China thought acid largely from this Marxist lens of China's official ideology drive policy, whose policy is due to the economy's Marxist thought, worldview complex blending and ideological pragmatism, but the West ignores at its own peril, having profound effects on Chinese politics, foreign policy in the world, all basis historical thinking, dialectical materialism, which China moved to advance socialism, decline capitalist systems. These concepts are taken seriously by our scholars who advise against the government. LG lost confidence in the market falling away, and China's bursting stock bubble rejecting the notion that China was doomed to infinite inequality. All the rigorous adherence to Marxism, China put sheer grid relying the Chinese state was securing equity and private firms. China moved to become self-reliant across the economy. China wanted to export authoritarianism. 2021. Supposedly threats consist of exports that facilitate authoritarian states. Beijing has little interest in export government. They want nations to copy to legitimize the system. Mark the card system, and no debris cascades. Even the worst case scenarios can find LEO with no impact. 2017. Middle order GPS and other navigation sets. Here the volume is so huge. Its number is so few. We don't need to worry here. Geos and satellites are moving at the same speed. Only about 1,000 kilometers. Not a problem. Odds hitting it less than likely. Less than 1 in 10,000. We don't lose access. Because of less of a problem debris. Spread over volume. Most fast, slower velocity. A small object deorbited. If you want large object, you can track and avoid it. Only launches include a planet deorbited. No satellites impact the reason DoD plans. Ensure GPS resilience and crisis. Early 23. Strategy to true China taking in geostationary satellites ordnance system with the zero network, different orbits. There's so many other capabilities. Resilience means you raise the threshold for attack and equality to its difference. Smart cheaper satellites replenish platforms on a regular basis, or guarded basis. And 6 no Korea war. There's a posturing international power strike escalation history produced. Picture 13. The regime has shown to be obsessed with the self-preservation has made to suggest strongly that these measures are superior Korea as the threat of the worst and never gone through with it. The military is equated in inferior. War would certainly end the regime's destruction threats. Rally Koreans finally resolved the being 71 on food aid investment zones of the U.S. and Korea and trying to keep the Koreans from spiraling out of control. They often consecutive plan. Or
That's the all. Is the implementation of the all the result in the implementation plan? Does the all the result in the implementation? Does the all result in the implementation? Okay, on the alt, how does the alt resolve into the links?
So the hot line on the part.
By having this party?
Yeah, the alt is to establish a social party.
And so you said that you would create class-based movements. What do those look like?
Yeah, which involves like creating a party.
Okay,
What
what does that look like?
The point of a movement is to actually get people like that, like on the ground or whatever, and like trying to actually bring down capitalism, but then secondly, like historically.
So how does breaking down capitalism happen? You say you mobilize movements, what do those look like?
They advocate for essentially such communist view.
Do you feel that it's successful?
What?
Do you feel that it's successful?
We feel that the movement starts up, and by start up, we argue that.
Okay, let's go to the risk review kind of plan. Why is doing risk review over tag file liability specifically?
Because you guys were saying that all these things are gonna cause nuclear war, so. Yeah,
The
like,
question is, how is the link germane?
what?
How is the link germane?
Because the plan is all about like, the 3D printing, so like, if all these things are gonna happen, if we don't do 3D printing, like. Then we just like see if they're actually gonna happen, and if they're not gonna happen.
But we're asking how risk review has to be specifically implemented over notice of takedown, tag file liability. What is specific about the counter plan to the plan?
Like. The area of patents and the 3D printing aspect, like.
Where in your part does it mention 3D printing for like liability? It's talking about like risk review writ large.
We're talking about specifically all of the stuff that's happening with like that and stuff is in order to stop like that.
Sure, your link part is not specific. So on the impact, it talks about using risk review in like all government agencies. How does your counterplans fill out?
It spilled out because like, it's, well, like. Kind of like the same way that yours spills out, like. The US like leads for everyone else, and like if like we're gonna go to war and like there's gonna be like a giant.
The question is, how does risk review get implemented into other government agencies and policies?
Okay, for a second, if like if you're assessing the risk of like any sort of policy action, it's
Our question is, how does using it once over tag file liability and intellectual property, how does that spill up into using it in other government agencies, other kinds of
yeah,
policies?
because it's obvious, like obvious that like it's college, or it doesn't have to be like risk assessment in terms of like a giant nuclear war happening.
That's
risk
fine.
is like
The court code is that. The link is from 2016. Why does not any other patent reform since 2016 come?
It's like, it's still like about litigation.
No, it's really set.
But we just need.
Oh, I just. We can sort of.
Actually, I'm gonna take some prep really quickly. Stop print. 726. Okay, December. Order's gonna be advantage 1. Advantage 2. The T strengthen. The or clog decide. The CRR catastrophic risk review counterplan. Captain clauses.
is related to just solvency.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's the same dot.
Oh, it's different. I said.
That's a solid.
Yeah. Is everyone good?
So
All right. Are y'all good? 1T1, they said that no impact to tech leadership, but it's wrong. So waiting his first 4 years too late. But also West 24 says space governance prevents weaponization. And Swing is in the context of China, but they dropped the impact that space militarization goes existential. The only way that we solve it is through the plan leading to bilateral tech diplomacy with South Korea. 1T2, they said that China's IR is Marxian, but that's going to be answered on the K. 1T3. They said China won't export won't export authoritarianism, but that's irrelevant when we're winning that China will invade Taiwan. 3 reasons. 1, military buildup. They are building barge construction now. They are sabotaging deep sea cables. And Xi Jinping's New Year's speech that said that Taiwan invasion is imminent and it causes extinction. The impact of Taiwan invasion was dropped, so you know that it draws in the U.S. and it causes extinction through global nuclear war, military nuclear winter. 1T3, they said 1T4, they said that there's no debris impact, but Fang is almost from a decade ago, and it doesn't take into account the Kessler syndrome because it's quo descriptive. The Kessler syndrome destroys it destroys military vaccine distribution. It destroys trade diplomacy, and it causes extinction, which was practically dropped. They say no satellite impact, but it's about China, not North Korea. You know that ISRs are key for stability in the Korean Peninsula that stops existential nuclear war. And they said no Korean war, but the pitch alert is literally a decade ago, and it has no predictive plan for the future. But we're winning that it's going to happen now. Solvency, they dropped that the plan is able to solve for innovation. The only thing I have to answer is the Pence Badger. 1, a study disproved the link Pence foster X anti-innovation to discern to reward, discourage copying, and facilitate diffusion of knowledge through licensing agreements that prevent secrecy. 3, 3D printing. Pence are key to provide an incentive for 3D printing development. That was the overwhelmed Lay's card, as well as the Rimmer card, which says 1,700 applications per year of patents are over additive manufacturing technology. But C, secrecy. Patents are key to data sharing that prevent secrecy and monopolies. Gen 18. The current patent system avoid disclosure data for use of otherwise non-joint protect include financial fraud, possibility burning, analysis, reliable method, non-disclosure indeed, and supporting innovation in accordance to disclosure, patent for striking 60%, and law smaller firms competing without investing capital without the disclosure covers little protect innovation. They say thickets, but it's wrong. Low quality patents are low. Strickler. Sorry? Oh, did they read any of the terms? No. Oh, anyway, okay. The plan solves. C strengthen. We meet 1, plan text in the vacuum. B, add strengthened remedies for patents from CAD file infringement. 2, counterinterpretation, strengthened IPR protection to expanding the scope, duration, coverage, remedies, and enforcement. ITPR Part 21. Then that's a strengthened national IPR membership into these projects with aggregate duration, remedies, enforcement, duration covered IP regime, non-protection, wider range, subject matter, computer programs, genetic innovation, for simple IPR, and the more products protect the stronger IPR legal laws, regulation on IP concerning the law of federal limitation IPRs. IP laws strictly not put such working requirements strengthen patent rights. Cut the card at rights. Prefer 1, predictability. ITPR defines strengthening IP protection based on court empirics. 2, overlimiting requiring nebulous strengthening that isn't increasing remedies brackets out, so most at ground, which is bad for education in class. 3, no ground law systems, a counterplan and links to patents. 4, functional limits checks each copier if the US G key solvency mechanisms, etc. limits out to most app, and refers reasonably anything else cause a race to the bottom, which turns their offense. One court plug is high now, and their card is literally from last year. Dua MVP 1003. Of course, overwhelming influx of shortage of judges, new judges, and authorized static judicial methods have been imposed on large filings, have reduced by 20% of courts, and then 2, link turn patents, patent trolls, clog courts that cause long tortuous litigation. Chain 13. Patent trolls to hijacking anybody can explore money, DA, should prolong litigation, serious problem patents, and increase the burden by EAs, 50% of patent cases causing complicated tortuous litigation called the dockets, and D, the plan decreases patent trolls, section 512F, search patent trolls through attorney fees, but no internal link. The patent, it's been backlogged for 15 years, BNT 22. About the 50 years is long close to courts and not a judicial margin of 55 years, and no impacts. Tons of all costs, the rule of law, and it's resilient. Bloom 21. And that's legitimately the apple lots of years, it doesn't know the crisis of the rest of the legal system every year to believe the base of law reviews all the crisis of courts and managed to survive and Trump thumps the impact as he destroys the rule of law. Condos of urban interpretation is built and they can only kick into this permanent theory, one bad debating, striking process of credit for one bad debating, straight to me, it says two are quality incentivizing John debates, bad add-ons of poor research practices, it is still solves next flat to one counterplan, app to straight term counterplan, CR. One for developed turbo the counter results requires of D1 to 19 consult deliberation refuse future about H and features for consider future events firm to complain that non-mutually exclusive parts of the counterplan over other issues counterplans must be technically and publicly competitive to preserve fairness in class limited justifies limited interestedness just to maintain and saves athletes so across counterplans are both issue seals the absence of domain constitutional resolution which kills fairness can't solve a certainty uncertainty over capital liability runs to the last patent law the counterplan ruins certainty because it conditions the plan over something that might not happen but be signaling only the plan provides a clear transition the risk review muddies the perception law collapsing innovation laser 20. As a goal to generate stable to believe in law and abiding by the entire industry with non-vertical scams of protocols and packages around the able to enforce certainty incentivizing. Innovation requires the course to be more predictable. See time frame where the brink of patent law collapse Camelon's risk review takes too long, but no benefit, no spillover. One instance of CRR over the plan can't solve the spill over do other issues solve better, but no emerging tech impact code 20. I held a deep rewarding innovation on landscape of fields of micro innovation go to the battle, lead out the battle, neglect the betters, impacting no disease impact also 16. And about the pathogen of the vaccine of being pledged to believe in a percent of the quality of the element statement that consider accidental risk requirement, and he's not fall short, because the card is short. And Tamplin saw the app solves asteroids to space innovation. Cat one inch of the app's competitive policy option links to the plan that also prefer fairness, you lose green lights, unpredictable net benefits to SKUs, competitive FDB education comparing policy option maximizes class by creating a baseline for contestation that's key to amelioration, which the best candidates to opportunity cost patterns are good. They foster excellence innovation. That was the drop case argument 3, perm to both, perm to both, and also 4 caps good unsustainability is a fallacy, Bailey 20. Over the management pool and poverty plays going ongoing population over population resulting in driving the prices less abundant computer process of the general run. More money towards the management from the quarterly advances from the pool of moderate economy versus fertilized best of the single part of the improve resilience of the foundation. I think the non-profit support distribution of inner bound to become rare kill future economic integration capitalist peace and non-capitalist innovation impurity fails for 20. Other places for innovation is one of the obvious government less innovative bureaucratic pool government illusion private sector recognition of labor and innovation climate change and also the public visibility social system the decay prevents space colonization of COVID-19. Amazing climate reduces alongside development changes in the colonization only survival human type of detrimental whatever elimination space colonization survival and desire to go degrowth as antithetical to space colonists. Space colonists solves all existential threats. Women 526. A situation more precarious climate change, economic insecurity, pandemic, space colonization, they were alive, the ultimate backup, something happened to Earth, as species, wipe out colonizing, always back up. Human survive no matter what. Space money can save the world out of the less well as precarious materials in space. And 4, 5, all fails. A impurities, through solvency, and it's worse for climate. Hands 21. Beyond capitalist enormous having world predominantly capitalist surviving a technical revolution more difficult, less possibility of terrorization, inference, and climate mitigation, substantially efficient, save millions of lives. The 1.5 which is UDP decoupling and prominent prediction IPCC. 2 degrees Celsius by 27. The all guarantees transition wars extinction. Harvey 20. The marks 10% of the most people have been affected, most European, Europe, China, India, and America's dependent food capitalist survival of people, energy support, daily life, 2/3 of the world for weeks and starving, redistribution of what becomes a false or delays, and people's transition more socialist. And I might read the last card if I have time. Prizes. 1, perm do both. Prizes fail alone and code-based system resolves the link and empirically solved 114. The article challenges the literature to make the prices of Alta IP frameworks based on misunderstanding of IPR, IP, artificial scarcity, force consumers reveal willingness to make products, allows government links to provide consumer demand to social optimal flawed, and compares a policy same objective that limiting IP most evident drug patents, a government drug represents the purchase of the ad full monopoly by scope get lost, and the reimbursement the prescription awards and reimbursement the price system with drug companies price application assume, running innovation without a dealing the price of this 2-part tariff government subsidized corporations, purchasing power limiting IP less efficient prices, IP government innovation and just a profit, and a less force efficient achievement since limiting IP the price to marginal cost and can't solve consumer demand, the price can't calculate at 114. Instead of an inferior to IP for price of consumers, government estimated reward knowledge consumers pay, and registered value goes on value to consumers purchasing artificial scarcity, consumers demand artificial scarcity, government cannot. Made without IP and 3D printing patents are key. That was done above, but also monopolizing these prices, a lead a buyer co-option, which is worth and links to the benefit, con 20. Awards are allocated administrative capability questioning expected domain horizon and initial policy misallocation life differentiated graded virtue decentralized markets, system monopolistic features of prizes. Cut the card at prices.
You didn't read the last card on that, right?
No, I didn't. Yeah, I'm ready.
Theoretical reasons for negative.
It's conditionality and process counterclaims.
Okay. On case, yeah. Oh, you just say that like, what are the China IR responses on CAP? Like, what do you cross apply?
Yeah,
In
so
speech, what do you cross apply from the China response?
Yeah, so the card that y'all read about marks, like basically informs IR. We think one winning case proves that our reps are real, but also having an impact turn on capitalism means that like it's just like an extended link. We don't think there's any offense to it.
Okay. Why does the Kessler effect happen if like there's no asteroid strike in the first place for like?
Yeah, so the Marathon 23 card is really good on it. It says the Kessler syndrome could occur through a multitude of ways. One, satellite destruction. ASAT weaponry, which is kind of goes to the ISR stuff on South Korea, will cause like satellites to explode. Then those shards destroy other satellites and it entombs the planet. The second one is the status quo proves that Kessler syndrome is happening now because the SpaceX Elon Musk satellites blew up and blew up other satellites. But the plan is able to solve for
But,
future.
the Kessler syndrome didn't occur because those satellites blew up, right?
Sorry,
Oh, like we didn't see extinction because the SpaceX satellites blew up, right?
that's not what I said.
No, you said the SpaceX satellites. blew up, right?
Oh, I'm just giving an example of how we're getting to the brink of the impact.
I mean, we'd say there's no break considering it should have already triggered by.
That's not true because more satellites in space make it more likely. It's a linear impact.
Let's go on to, where is it? On log, why does the like section 5112, like, 512, like, why is that responsible? What's the warrant?
So the Delia card says that section 512F is basically a part of the plan that makes it so patent trolls can't use notice and takedown in like basically unfair ways. And so basically it prevents patent trolls which are high in the status quo, whilst also strengthening patent rights because it's about misuse of patents.
Okay, so if troll, wait, on the cap K, I mean. Okay, cool, on cap, why, like, how do we know that like only capitalist innovation works if we haven't seen like the Marxist innovation?
Well, the Stryker 20 card indicts Marxist innovation. It says one government allocated innovation is worse because it can't measure consumer costs, but it also says a capitalist system is key to inventions, which is like an impact turn. Like the card's called Why Socialism Won't Work, so.
Okay. Back on the CRR counter plan. Wait, no, number, on K. I would keep the Notredame, but if we're using. Like your thought.
Personally, I've been working with the same.
I also apologize for being unclear, I'm congested, so I'll do better.
I don't know what's going on, like, someone at my school was like sick and now like everybody's sick, it's so bad. I have.
Okay, I'm good as well.
I have any second, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Leadership to exploiting underpaid workers against other people's freedom to innovate as bad because happens to call the extinction from newborn climate change, the alt culture, class-based movements, and social revolution are rejecting materialism and focusing on helping society on framework. If we're philosophically competitive socioeconomic system, they can weigh the planet's justification for capitalism, but we get to defend an alternative like permutation. Some ideology we win that the plane uniquely expands capitalism and just suppress it. Counter ideological and alternative. Their interest arbitrary reduces advocacy to four things that constrains them to not to find the rest of the one ACB. We impact on all the justifications are projected as no reason for one on presumption. They don't read class, let's skip that stuff. Go down to the quick stuff. The push for innovation has invested policy discourse, force calls, bringing to the justice center, Kapinski 20. Also, the president of the teachers doing national innovation, evaluation, innovation, and I think I'm still issue along with innovation, opportunity, passion, innovation, and policy, for salary, and actions that that's the information, which has summer, and these are the robots, and I was living in Robertson, where they're going to start, so there was a practice over for the way you're saying, over and over, and we do that time for 40 more than I do the first one, because it's incentivized innovation lesson, but it also was on price and increase of business, and way to things that to something mobile to serve a community. And the plan strengthens the monopoly over balance, like standing the reach of private property. The one they see is the near is of augmenting imperialistic financial capitalism to justify the dominance of the liberal international order that disintegrates the planet and exacerbates inequality from out 20. The Atlantic to be monopoly amounts to base capitalism dominant classes bourgeoisie safety becomes necessary otherwise abuse and directly balance it was honestly the same private property properties micro law imposed on each other and properties mutable lens everything else police and laws that decided it was a human weaponized the laws by dominant people over delivery and the competition and development warranty claims to defend and incentivizing competition but practice bullshit even though it becomes production property production and will say basic people said that these environment new production and goal social institutional absolutely incentivizing the production and development but always some kind of property manifest in the city or dependent inequality increase financial capital property more for claiming freedom and modern set of creation of the intellectual property is the only martial size of property to do creation of the property service and one capital and also conforming capital society. And from a serialization of Eastern threats to the investment taking over into let's watch consistency and endless surveillance and trust of state scenes irresponsibly achieving modern
3, row all 15. And is this one also for every meal world of which was the ontological beneficiary and element accidental economic better or vehicle in the West, also they undertakes it for new and field opportunities, thus responsibilities thus work is built around the facilities and the university of the threat, the labors of the people in stereotypical representation, responsible races of the college density, recipes, and racialization of world, it is of modernity. And material of the theme of like IP, not in the few stories, upheld the perpetuation of global war against those behavior, rational let us say breeding affected investments in imperial sovereignty, rear and bold year 20. Or was it something related to nuclear oh, we actually skipped this card because it's not. Actually, we don't identify, don't skip it. Represent the subject of solution nuclear plenty of restaurant for or team season and mineralized unintentionally use it US will not tolerate open your brain no code even no justification to any also of course including the US with pilot recognition and being displaced no one use we remake the world status or appropriate national community establishing considered as sovereignty walls the American West single as a coercion country something factor for some president the use of value as well as aggregating national interest. On framework that confers to the creativity created model trains of debaters and never question the geopolitical, political, or economic structure because you can never have a true have good or bad or hedge good or bad debate under plain folks that propose the ability to develop creative solutions to global problems and independently key to valuable life for range 20. Most of the arbitrary institutions realizing creative and social norms and shape our lives being as a legal person of any forms of the practice of writing and the policy single as of the world and what you call the fashion time rates and not the legal form development certain that subject and vision world and the subject all around and running as one cause something creative and feeling and cause approximately imagine you for me to skip the next thing. I'll just go back to it later if I have. Go to 2AC2. They say that patents are burden possible that apples at space legal novelties have profit and the global purpose of corporations tax plus surveillance happens not underpaid economic strategy go on as 20 or 22. Corporate solar capital never allowed to overrun every name result in growth and trade opportunity and information of pressing of the new responsible attacking for the radical way of apples and rubber business with service of the degree which consolidation over is a cover of a lot of new and atmosphere and sustainable several other words in that building for the design of the corporation and making a regulation impossible for previous corporate purpose of requesting reimbursement or something and so the desirable corporate amounts of the changing terms and amounts capital primarily and artificial tools on a category business and number of passwords on a total customer passwords on the family of the members of the central rules of the constitution all of the social clubs and operations of the corporation and the corporate laws and structure. On the part of the permits insufficient to overcome the pervasive and state of capital accumulation only full-fledged commitments of labor analysis with organizing to resist capitalism, she 18. Capitalism is of subject to the spirit of capitalism and background feelings and it was something that I was self that didn't was even enough to be the development of balance in and different the neighbor running in the also some sort of person identity of the identity policy of movements of neighbors and capitalism was an older person that didn't even do and also they got understanding that usually labor and different just the possibility of residents of some direction of waves and some causes of when resistant in an individual political principle question about people as a policy and justice in personal relations. And then the perp fails when it starts an interest in any permanent the abstract representation of recent rejected team of a class or as the plan is as a plan needs to make impossible border for fairness and mutually exclusive. They also protect commodity price reach by the city act, protection of cannabis and neoliberal governmentality through all legal notice and rapid needs of and society, third links or DAs, equals of reasonable and including any on terms on case or framework. This was philosophy of disagreements and sufficient or the conclusion of the app. I'll skip down to the topic stuff. First warning for sustainability, corporate policy guarantees ecological breakdown and catastrophe planetary boundaries, 122. You'll write a little bit of nice little forever unit for in such like the work replace the over the legislature say quality of this right freedom for some corporation more power than any limited on for just not only 79 or no corporation corporation control most of the planning this and also segregation international trade negotiation and cooperation on human activity, especially possible reason that people in psychopaths is probably prevalent solution on track and communities of the United States for words market part there on the second board. Cross supply innovation suffer Kapitsky above second Catholic capital decimates innovation. One is unsustainable drives recurrent or seeing crisis of that was a crisis page and second direction outweighs magnitude capitalism is 90% of innovation social and directs towards high impact areas started in pure substance economies of higher growth of the upper level output the US started off dirt poor and burned out by the Nazis. Vast US is reaching the world rate to 10% annually. Only people left later because Stalin decided to purge all the scientists democratic socialism solves. On the go to the space stuff. Socialism is key to space, book 21. Since the identity for all specific one center and will be in progress based on that we need to know all the prosecutor return social security necessary usually marks the most never so many difficult elections of the economic purpose of much more space only all fails. Numbers for error net happens in levels of flaws in system but inherent unconcealed at C24. It was an also monster and process all these like concealed in comments protected right in first opportunities exclusive.com where student comments and mentions within couples and some of those that already exist with social characters on the process happens to learn in couples properly opportunity produces longer dangerously other than all separate from the couples of line and its very core. And also this works happening makes it and instability at unrest level, which translates gets the public on board mainly because like there's like just a bunch of power that's in capitalism that means that people want to go out. Like Elon Musk has like access to that.
Alright, are you open for the cross?
Yeah.
Okay, first I want to start on the interpretation. Does your counter inter mean we get to weigh the F?
You get to weigh the F as a defensive mechanism.
So like, let's just say case impacts, can we weigh those? South Korea, North Korea, that stuff?
I mean, like, you have to justify it, as long as it's like, the way that your impact help should be is a way that is justified capitalism.
Okay,
So,
cool.
like-
So like, if we just go for cap good, the case is the reason why cap's good, and then y'all can just weigh why cap's bad, like that's how we do it.
I guess so.
Okay, second, you said that we should compare philosophical, actually, that's fine. I'm gonna go down to the link, like the Orientalism link. You said that we have like the Eastern reps. But the row et al. 15 card is about the US, like saying that like Eastern threats are like threats, I guess. But the case page, Japan, like on our Japan scenario, Japan's new defense paper said that they view China and North Korea as the most imminent threat.
So
So
what's the-
how is this not a no link out of that argument? Because it's not Western conceptions of threats.
Well, we would say that first of all, the way that the US is creating like China and stuff, sure, maybe like Japan has that like that ideology also, but we'd say that this still like the capitalism argument still applies. And basically it's just like because the US is so like desperate to try to deter China because of like the capitalist way that power like functions, like it's zero sum, nobody can have like the same amount of power as somebody else without having to compete for it.
I feel like that's irrelevant for what the plan does, because the West 24 card says Japan's new national security strategy labeled China as the greatest strategic challenge, North Korea labeled as a more grave and imminent
I
threat.
think it's still applicable, because the reason why we label it as an imminent threat is because of the way that capitalism makes power work.
Well, you say we, but this is about like
I'm talking about-
Japan. Japan, like the link is about the US. No, it's fine. I'll move on. You say that you say that patents are bad and lead to corporate exploitation. The Manalis 22 card is about corporate law, not patents. How does it apply at all?
It's about what, sorry?
Corporate law, does it say the word patents or IP rights?
We see that the logic still applies, but a lot of the corporate law that it's talking about is like patent slash like IPR law. Cause like that counts as corporate law, like that's a law that like.
Under what, you know what, that's fine. You say that direction outweighs, cap wastes 90% of innovation. Is this just your opinion, or do you have a card to back this up?
It's just like an animal.
Okay, and you say that perm is severance, like how? Like,
Because you're trying to cause a bunch of capitalist innovation and like go into like space and all that stuff, like all that stuff that's happening is through capitalism. I'm trying to say that we're gonna try and get rid of capitalism, at the same time, like enforce the structure that like capitalism operates on. Stop.
that's crazy. Alright, do y'all want to take prep?
We're gonna take a tiny bit. That starts.
Was it already?
That's the, we're something about. Okay, 3.6 now.
Oh, can I use cross to ask a question?
Like your prep, yeah.
Yeah, so is there any like reps offense, like does all of the like reps link to like China threat reps, those materialize in impact, right? It's not like valid proximity stuff.
Oh, I don't think so. It's like, unless I just can't remember. I'm pretty sure it's just Noto in China.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
That was 6 seconds. I don't
It was
know.
like 7:08 left in the thing. I have no clue.
7:08, okay, time.
It's gonna be one card on tap, it's in the UNC doc. And then it's gonna be. Sweet genetic, wait, no, that's not one. Prizes, CRR, log case.
Alright, can we give it again?
It's one thing on cap. Prizes. Risk review. Log. Case.
Okay.
Wait, you good or again?
Oh, no, that's good.
Oh,
Okay, sorry, what was it? This case.
wait, no.
So
So
I'll just look it up.
one thing on cap, wait, what, you got a opinion of cap card?
The cappers are exempt from that as well.
Of the two NC doc.
Yeah. So it's
Cap, prizes, risk review, log case. Everyone good?
Yeah.
Transition towards capitalism makes the instability and unrest inevitable. Transition gets the public on board. Start P20. Trust in the institutions of capitalism is trained to spike performance. 2020 study found that 56% of global population that capitalism does more harm than good. Results of pending conventional wisdom. GDP correlates with trust. This result of broad belief prosperity is unfairly disputable. The narrative of socialism focuses on young people. We're kind of little difference among groups of belief is universal. Goal prices concede firm to both. And then go on a risk review. Counter on condo. Counter we get 3 conditional advocacy. 1 neglect. It's key absent generics which allows for too choice and track because the act makes the grounds and gets infinite prep time. 2 testing ideological political class from multiple angles to for education, communal formation, logic and rule policy makers attack those from different angles to choose better accuracies all the time. Translation wisdom portability, 4 reasonability, good is good enough leads to something proud on judging events, instant reasonability is arbitrary, and 5 reject the argument 9 15 of debate is not impossible, don't vote us down another thing, just risk review. And then on process 1, it's not a process P, it's a pick out of the topics for mechanism driving the IP solves limits and predictability. It's the one action that every act must commit taking if they don't have defense, they fail to prepare. 2, net benefit proves it wasn't germane author can compare. 2, option 3, neglect, check proliferating acts that ratify this as one spike on background and then concede firm to both and firm to counter. They're going to flaw. It said Reuters, which is that Texas now Zyle also said that any form of patent means that there's going to be a lot of suits and triggers judicial extension because there's a cooperation never get sued that's close and goes nuclear. Nicola 21 says that there's more authoritarianism, cancel conflicts, from populism, increased indexing international organizations like NATO. On uniqueness. Tech allows for Russo to have real allocation to unclog the ports, but small scale growing January 22. And reduce HR duties achieving time saving up to 60%. Gen A produce performance and improvement plan that incorporate responsibilities and keep performing active streamline to your process workload on HR tech, all within the lower to the risk use cases for experimentation, learning internally before expanding AI for searching through procedures or tracking information from invoice out with adoption by reducing friction. And the federal circuit starting and implement AI decrease current clock comes in April 7. Help be efficient and cut some costs. First report held discussion form. Federal circuit beginning test AI generate court statistics and second one may take us half hours. Exact hours used uncautiously AI task force just completed work and then 26 will determine policy and judiciary use of AI and simulate skip the next card then yeah. Outweighs on magnitude, the fair of liberal normal cause extinction of array 20. Essential nuclear warrior eco class, new class separated from the elite. Infotech and biotech giving needs to create heaven or hell. In the 20th century, the same tech built fashion the communist democracy. Same thing happened in the 21st century. Do something effectively global rules. The rule based liberal order, despite imperfection, to create the most pristine prosperous era in history. Peace now means implausibility, or the situation we take for granted. If we continue to collapse an omnipresent worst future will annihilate itself. And then on the link, the combination of hamstring, instability, and legal doctrine cause a flood of lawsuits. Prefer comprehensive society best in 13. Factors that cause disputes are model addresses the origin, not just settlement. Legal change affect growth and legislation appeals, increasing the uncertainty of outcomes, lead to increased litigation noise regarding standards and boundaries claimed. The pro-patent shift law lead to more litigation, change the dominant factor for the rise of litigation. More patent cause more litigation. Skip that card. Sorry. And then also perception law triggers the link belief in litigation explosion cause access scale back. Common 15. Concern over litigation is weapon of perception. If the public can be persuaded, there is a price to cut back, and the patent controls kill and Tech innovation 16. Any categories will be a huge boon to the tech industry because controls companies are devising huge roles to defend themselves rather than advancing tech innovation. This is a situation where young competitors lawsuits can feel fledgling individuals after living beyond severe potential and have to prefer the plan solved because trolls now the plan solved still not created. It takes years to found space. And Trump doesn't dump his policies are popular because he's already controlled the House and Senate on a case. One no space for all 15. Every country with statues for Russia and China's vested interest preventing militarization to attack would hurt them far more. International purpose space war is likely is highly unlikely scenario. All parties involved incentivized against attacking. If war did occur, it would be part of larger conflict on Earth. And Fang 17 is clear that the Kessler effect never happened because the odds are 1 in 10,000 after the asteroids end up colliding. They dropped it into 2AC. And then also Cross concludes that the impact would trigger because SpaceX satellite blow up because of chain reaction. We should have already seen like nuclear war and fallout from that. And then even then, there's no Korean War because Kim is fractional horrors and Saunders 18. Now Trump cancels the summit, still not likely. Even leaders have discretion, they're constrained by material situation constraints. One, formidable military capability. Second, geography, artillery points. At Seoul, South Korea oppose a war which would influence U.S. behavior. China is now one refugee. All sides know a war would be a huge and difficult military and political problem. There are strong incentives to deter rather than escalate. Rational staying power. War was spelled the end of the regime. Little reason to start a war. Use decision makers, no cost. Make war less likely. A war would have to overcome strong structural pressures. And they also conceded the China sector, which said that like securitizing China makes China more likely to attack. If the 122 evidence, then that's because like when we securitize China, like China's like not really revisionist. They want to like say the defensive realists. They don't want to do it or their own thing. They want to do their own thing. They don't want to attack. And if we like escalate them, they attack.
So then,
What are you fun? Eventually. Right, yeah. Yeah.
It's his broadcast.
Yeah.
Cat liability is used to create innovation necessary for space integration and aerospace engineering that prevents weaponization of space. That's why 24 enables the U.S. to have space dominance, which allows us to have cooperative governance in order to prevent people from using weapons in space. They said that there's no space wars, but it's too old. Our cards are those reasons from last year talks about how there's weaponization is happening specifically with China. And studying that Japan is key to deter China from invading Taiwan. Japan has defense military now, but without access to U.S. innovation to supply them with the necessary weapons that we cause the China to invade Taiwan, which was U.S. China extinction with withdrawals in Korean War also causes extinction. Their card is too old for 2018, but ours from this year talks about how Korean Peninsula is escalating now. Only Japan can turn solves through U.S. innovation. Down solvency. They drop solvency capital is also the experts necessary innovation to create necessary space governance and military technology in order to deter China. This one drops. I don't have to do much here on call. First, it's like go on the D10, 10 3 is the recent cases I've been talking about in the course are called now. Even if there's AI integration now, you judge it means that there's a lack of people actually operating the AI needed to create to decrease payloads and decrease the pressure. Well, of course, which means that we're really unique because they said that even AI integration is high now, but it's not enough to solve. First, AI integration is far away. The cards say that will happen in the next 2 years. And second, of what I said above, there's no new judges because there's enough people to actually operate the AI. And there is in the link to first kind tolls are the most significant causes of poor luck now. That's chain 13. They also conceded that, but they know that the plan solves the plan decreases kind tolls. And then when I see the other talks about how section 512 would deter kind tolls because it would mean that they would be an increased attorney fees and damages they would have to pay for infringing on copyright liability, which means that we are unique. Decrease in kind tolls and that's linked to the plan. And there's also no return like BDN 222 says that there was a low risk because there's been a backlog in the course for over 15 years, meaning that there's no unique reason why the plan would be the break in order to cause a backlog in the course. And there's also no impact. That Bloom 21, there's a ton of all causes of rule of law and not proceeding to prove and it's also resulting in there's been a ton of decreases in rule of law recently, especially with the ratification of the Trump's second presidency, which means that the category does not have an impact because there's a law mentioned of causes that they cannot solve for, including history, because history has provided a basis for why the courts are not enough to actually prevent essential risks and they've been resilient so far. And moving on to the K, we'll consider their interpretation that we can compare to socioeconomic impacts. So as we do not get the verification process check with the perhaps like must have a material impact with no non-proximate impact, so we must be able to use them to evaluate this way. First is that the innovation is bad, but innovation is seen as self-existential threat. That was on case which one dropped in the job. So in case proves that it's not necessary to solve war with Taiwan and military space government. And they said that Pan took right, but this was just a link card. It says that Pan caused extraction of minerals, but does not have a terminal impact. They said they'll reject the severance part, but we were not going for it, so reject the argument on the team. They said that campus is not sustainable. It is sustainable. So at least 20 talked about how economic growth has increased 100-fold over the last 10 years and there has not been an impact yet. For example, we've decreased things like poverty, decreased the chances of war, which proves that it's not good, and we have not run a single renewable resource, which proves that it's sustainable in the long term. They said that they all solve with it, but it does not. Causes there was crackdown and independence from other countries like China and Russia do not want to convert it with China and Russia. In other words, do not convert. That just means that there's all costs of capitalism and just doing the U.S. Just doing U.S. because it's not solving no capitalism and it's hard time for us and that there's no innovation without the profit, but there's no benefits to innovation, which means that people will not innovate and cannot solve the impacts of the other. Short-term funding outweighs because the impacts on jobs. We have to go in that case proves that innovation is impossible. Absolutely have no evidence for socialist economy is better at the air out because they do not have any evidence. They just put analytics and the K prevents space colonization because it means that people do not have enough economic growth to actually develop foreign space innovation because a substantial amount of money and energy is needed to cause it without the spatial economies that we cannot go to the space. We cannot go to space. And space colonization, what drop? They're trying to prevent space colonization from occurring in the active capitalist movement. The terms economic activity which prevents space colonization, that's perfect. And they put none of the goals to check it off your quote. Even if you gave it to them, they did not work for why socialism would lead space colonization and the impact was dropped. Space colonization is due to every single event. We need to block prevents climate change, war, pandemics, and not sustainability. Meaning space colonization resolves every impact we have bad. That's good and
In mean, like, say like all the link stuff, well, it doesn't have an external, just to impact health. Why
Okay.
cap is good and they can't solve innovation.
They can't solve innovation if you do not have capitalism, these people do not have the profit motive to actually innovate in the first place, meaning that you cannot solve for any of the apps impact,
And
you
on the
cannot use.
crisis counterpoint, we said public innovation fails,
And then the crisis counterpoint quantified that public innovation fails,
which is conceded.
which was conceded, which means that this proves that the alt cannot solve for the impacts. And space colonization outweighs because it's a key internal link to every other impact, because if an existential impact happens on Earth, we can just move to space and then we'll be able to solve it. It means that outweighs any other impacts because
And it
that's
solves all of the sustainability stuff, which is
and
wrong,
it solves sustainability, because even if it's unsustainable now, we make it sustainable by doing space colonization.
because of endless resources.
Because it has endless resources there, and besides, we have red cards that like presume that resources have not run out anyways, and that it will continue to be abundant.
What was it? Yeah, I was gonna say 340.
So we'll keep reading. Copy paste. It's gonna be plug copy paste, so sorry. Looks like all of us. Well, really, like, buses don't connect, let's work 60% of their time on, or guys, because it can search through case that are starting to implement AI right now, which decreases from cloud, or Thompson from a week ago says so, it was done by 2026, is completely autonomous and allows just to get through cases, quicker applicants, because all offices no issue, and the first was for and because the post is on cap now. They completely can see the framework that we have to like actually they have to like weigh the plans just in case for caps, and we get to the all currently the firm, or actually they don't go for the firm. So you have to compare like post office competitive socioeconomic systems with more disaster go to like the actual like half of the K proper. First of all, IPRs need to benefit an office society and misdefined legal doctrine behind it. That's also about behavior because the way that IPR benefits from individual monopoly rather than society and alienates labor from the products of the IPR is bad for makes agreements because it becomes impossible for people to exercise the rights and it also kills communal property because the only legally being sold rights to the products. And like capitalism views militarism and climate change for 5 wars, one problem becomes a priority for everything. People don't care about the social harms of their actions. 2 people care more about economic growth over anything else. They want more money because money is power. 3rd, monopolies always want to expand their markets so that they earn more money and market control. They care about their company, not society. 4 products are produced for the sole purpose of profit. It makes doesn't happen to help society. It's opted about and at best the extra benefit that gets monopolies more money. 5, capitalism is leads more power because money is the root of power. Having more money gives companies more influence to advance their own agendas that they use of society. And there's like so many things that monopolies do that make them money because that cause climate change and militarism, oil drilling, emissions by the military, weapons and military tech production is all less essential. That's all the handle and Durban evidence when we won and see goes full conceded the affirmative theorizing of Eastern threats and investment in attacking Oriental logic necessity and with surveillance and this runs in the CCS they're responsibly achieving more modernity. It's all for the sake of economic competition. That's the road 15 episodes votes whole conceded in the 1 hour don't look to make new responses. Also the managerial regime of patterns of health through the perpetuation of global war against social needs irrational by the state's breeding effective investments into imperial sovereignty. The Europe bully or 20 adversaries also conceded basically North Korea is not irrational in any capacity. We read evidence throughout the whole round that says that Kim is a rational actor. He doesn't just randomly go to war with people. There's no reason why they're like magically solve for anything if the threat isn't even there in the first place. But then go to the sustainability stuff on sustainability, corporate building, guaranteed ecological breakdown from climate catastrophe, planetary boundaries. It's especially true. They literally said in a way, there are infinite resources in space. Are you kidding me? It's all for economic growth. That's the reason why we're gonna probably end up dying in a few years because of climate change. There's barely any minerals left on Earth, and the moment we go into space, we're gonna kill that too. It's just delaying the inevitable. We're going extinct because of capitalism. That's all the lens evidence. But then on innovation, capitalism decimates innovation. One is unsustainable and drives recurrent worsening crisis levels. The crisis page second direction outweighs magnitude. Capitalism wastes 90% of innovation. Socialism directs it towards high impact area service and pure socialist economies have higher growth level of effort. Per level of output, the USSR started off dirt poor and burned to the ground by the Nazis, and they passed the US reaching growth rates of 10% annually. It only collapsed later because Stalin decides to purge all the scientists. Democratic socialism solved the 3 wars are completely conceded. Don't let them just magically say, oh, we conceded solvency, so therefore capitalism is good for innovation. It doesn't matter. That's not how it works. They're like the actual warrants are conceded insofar as they don't actually answer the fact that like capitalism is the reason why we're not able to like probably innovate in the future because all of our resources are going away. It doesn't matter. And capitalism maybe has a little bit of innovation right now because in the end socialism is better for it. But then on the alt. Extend one and see Foster says socialism solves those tax melted as people learn from their mistakes. They fix the problems before they become existential. That's only comes from the focus of society, not the individual, and monopolies and economic incentives are the reason why this instability and climate change and why they become existential threats. They clap these movements towards socialism allows it for a focus on society. That's key because existential threats are threats to society. We can only solve by helping society as a whole. It's full conceded. They say the all fails, but internet and capitalism inevitable. The flaws in the system are inherent but concealed. There's always been movements, but there's not the skill of the always means that it's key. So even if you buy it a little impurity of how there's like maybe one socialist movement in the past, it's still policies on them, but then go to case. On case, they go for Taiwan where they conceded Russia who said that China is a defensive realist and two, there's no space for halls that countries need underdeveloped ASAPs would only have its conventional war spilled over and Emerson and DOD deterrence tech set up and Japan collapses because China is a defensive realist and it only escalate when the US constructed as a threat, which the app does right is conceded in, and North Korean war team is afraid of Trump. China doesn't want to get involved in the Iran makes more hard for because allies like tell North Korea don't go to war and on Pastor Fatty 2017 is clear that Pastor never happened because they offered 1 out of 10,000 after asteroids collided. You know, space satellites of global systems always prefer us because insofar as like extinction like happens because of capitalism is irreversible and always like always on scope you're putting us like prior to die for evil.
The order is going to be advantage 1, and then the captain. Yeah. This is that case outweighs, and you know that capitalism is good. On the case page, we're winning a massive risk of the impact. First, we're gonna go for space militarization. You know, only the plan is key to have certainty in patent law that's able to make sure that we're able to meet our 3D printing assurances to South Korea. That's key for them to have space governance to prevent space weaponization through global government. Space weaponization causes extinction, at least the pellet clouds, direct energy weapons, and it's a militaristic dream which has dropped impact. All of their Orientalism links don't apply here because it's about space militarization from every country. So you know that it's 100% risk on extinction. But I'm also going to go for the Taiwan War scenario. You know that our aerospace that the plan is key to incentivize 3D printing for our aerospace assurances to Japan. That's key for them to prevent China from invading Taiwan. The only defense they have is that China is a defensive realist. One, this is new if it's not in the context of their links, but you know we disproved the links because the Japanese defense paper said that China is a threat. Their only defense is that the West creates securitized logics in places that it doesn't exist. But this disproves it. Also, you know that they are revisionist because of military barge construction, deep sea cable sabotage, and speeches. They can't give you a reason why they're not. So you know you air app. It causes extinction that's dropped. It's illing. It leads to nuclear war and nuclear winter, which has 330 billion pounds of soot that clouds out the sky. It causes extinction, and it didn't do any impact calculus in the 2NR. So this is going to be light work on the CAP-K. We're going for the impact term. We conceded their framework insofar as we as it's cap versus the alternative. This means that all the reps link must have an external impact, and you use utilitarian calculus. So as long as I win that capitalism solves a bigger impact, then I win this debate. One, cap is good. It is key to innovation. Patents are key to innovation, and innovation is reliant on a capitalist system. The 3D extend the pawn card, which is a defense for their link card. It says that the most comprehensive study says that patents foster ex-ante innovation due to the certainty of reward, discourage copying, and facilitate diffusion of knowledge through licensing. This answers all their monopoly pushes because it's not in the context of the most comprehensive study created on patents in the first place. They say that capitalism stymies innovation through monopolies. That was answered above. They say that the alternative is better because it's a communal theory, but we proved that the innovation incentive in the first place is from capitalism. I'm going to extend Groin. Only patents can solve for innovation through consumer demand and artificial scarcity. And cross-ex, Lauren extended all of the deficits to the prize counterplan. Here, it proves that a government-facilitated mechanism is worse for innovation because they can't get consumer demand. But also, you know, socialist innovation fails because empirics go aft. Socialist innovations empirically failed in the past due to lack of a market incentive. It doesn't matter if they spread innovation through a diffused mechanism because they can't get it in the first place. They say that answers all of their cap power stuff. They say that that capitalism causes endless war and military innovation, but wrong. Extend Bailey 20. The capitalism is sustainable. One, the economy has grown 100-fold, and we haven't run into any of the impacts I said. Overpopulation is controlled, poverty and wealth has decreased, but also war has decreased, which is a drop warrant as to why capitalism is good. It's improved. Capitalism has promoted democracy and improved the quality of life, and innovation is mitigating from climate change. The democracy warrants is from the anyway. They say the techno-oriental the plan calls this techno-orientalist logic, but you know there's no external impact to this link part, and it can't prove the revisionism stuff. So cross it off your flow. That we're not going through the no-go scenario, so it doesn't matter. They say that cap is unsustainable, but we did that stuff above. There's a lot of offense. I'm going for the space colonization turn because it was mishandled. The alternative prevents space colonization from occurring, and an anti-capitalist movement constrains economic activity, which prevents space colonization. That's COVID. Drop. They read none of the Phillips cards, so you know most of the 2NR was new. Strike it off your flow, but even if you gave it to them, they didn't give a warrant for why socialism leads to space colonization war. The impact was dropped. Space colonization is key to avoid every impact. Leaving the rock prevents climate change, war, pandemics, and unsustainability, which is external to the decay, but it also solves the unsustainability warrants because there's endless resources. The 2NR was just an ethos pushed on why space colonization, and resource scarcity would just be repeat the logic, but because we proved that capitalism is sustainable, you know they don't get it. They say that socialism solves solves. But they also said that moving space would put off the inevitable because they would eventually run out of resources, but conceded their infinite resources solved. Also, you know that the transition war stuff is wrong. Socialism can't solve innovation, but it also leads to transition wars because no one wants it. China and Russia are all causes to first crackdown that they dropped, so you know you don't give them any of the transition war stuff, and it wasn't in contextualization to the actual cards. Good roll.
Can I have a card now? Yes. A card now, but after the. Just the things that you think were not. I don't know.
What country adopted it?